Good evening, everyone. It's social distancing at the Arizona Chamber. As always, we're joined by Chamber CEO Glenn Hammer. We call this Happy Hour with Hammer. Glenn, we have a special guest from the powerful House Ways and Means Committee. Why don't you introduce our guest?
We are very happy to have David Schweikert with us here today. He's my congressman, and I just want to first say, David, thank you for the work that you and your entire office are doing as we go through this difficult time with the coronavirus.
Been here banging around on my computer and we can't seem to figure out how to get it to work, even though I had it working yesterday when we did a different interview. Look, I'm sure your phones have been blowing up a bit with the payroll protection issues with some of the banks. I keep trying to remind myself and everyone I'm talking to, it's only the second day. There's still a remarkable amount of money it's been committed to. You know, and for the scale of bureaucracies, it's stunning how fast this has been up and running. But for anyone who's hitting the wall, please, you know, our congressional office should be one of the first places you call, because we have a handful of staffers who are really good at this. We have some resources at Treasury and SBA to sort of find, because we've had a few weird, you know, my business is not like everyone else's business. Mm-hmm. And we've had to intercede and get some opinions on those.
And I know that on Friday, it's going to be expanded out to independent contractors, I believe, and sole proprietors. So
correct.
You know, so things just kicked off Friday. And as you said, this is really just day two. But, and I want to just thank you. Your office has done webinars and other informational settings with the Small Business Administration on how constituents in Arizona could access these loans. But one question I wanted to ask you that keeps popping up is that it's $349 billion. It's first come, first serve. There is nervousness that the loan / grant will run out and that some of the small businesses will be out of luck. Could you please give us your thoughts on that?
We just don't know yet. Look, the first thing is we'll approach that when we get there. You know, there's dozens of potential problems and issues and mechanisms, and we've been sort of facing each one as it becomes real. In an environment like this where, you know, we're just trying to keep our businesses alive, get through this, to fixate on some of the possibilities. Look, we're doing the math, even down to our staff. We're watching how much money's being pledged, what institutions are doing it. As you saw, Wells Fargo today. Now, it turns out Wells Fargo's issue was more their capital caps that were part of their consent decrees. So there's other things that are a little more complicated floating around us. It wasn't that Wells Fargo didn't want your business. They had some other regulatory hurdles. I'm actually of belief that if the program is demonstrating a level of success and a high level of need, and the capital is fully committed out, that there's an opportunity that Congress would return and step up more capital. But predicting what Congress does in the future has always been a little tricky.
Right.
This program, and I wanted to also get your thoughts. There's a couple of other loan programs out there, but the PPP, as it's called, you know, the coverage of payroll or most of payroll up to certain salary limitations, rent and utilities seems to be the one game in town that could really help small businesses, a lot of which have just been shuttered or have no revenue or little revenue coming in, afloat for the next couple months. You just sort of talk about the intent behind that program and how you see this playing out if we get our Arizona businesses to apply and participate.
Well, and look, I think you need to expand the conversation a little bit more. If I was a small business and I woke up today and the bottom has fallen out of my customer base, first I would hop on the Small Business Administration's website, chase that emergency 10,000 that can become a grant. Then I may even consider getting myself in the queue for the expanded loan facility there right on the Small Business Administration's website. Then I would immediately make an appointment at my local lender, who hopefully is also SBA, other things qualified, and walk in there and start to set up this loan. Because both these, that emergency $10,000, if certain things fall into place, that can be also treated as a grant, that 10,000. And then the other side is the PPP. Understand it's the 8 weeks where you decide, sort of designate saying, hey, here's where I'm either keeping or bringing some of my employees back. I'm going to spend 75% of the money on payroll and payroll related items. Those other dollars I'm going to be able to spend on utilities, rent, those things. Follow the rules, set up a second checking account so you run that 8 weeks through that, just so you have the easy documentation, because that's one of the greatest deals as a small business right now, and soon to be sole proprietors and others, is that if you use that for payroll stability, as we look at it, that 8 weeks can be written off as a grant.
So that's really good advice. And I believe you were talking about for the $10,000 grant opportunity. That's the EIDL loan, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, that if you go to
Correct.
SBA.gov, they have the information any business would need in terms of how to file for that. And that's C3s, that's C6s, I believe that's small businesses of all sorts.
Yes. And so, so what you're trying to do is just find every opportunity you can to have capital flowing into your business. The other thing I will encourage, because I'm sure I know you have, your team around you is very smart, and you probably have some businesses around you that have been very creative in thinking about how to do some of their work, even in a distributive model or following the social distancing. And can I encourage you to maybe hold a couple of these, hopefully people can get their camera to work, where that you have a discussion saying, here's how we kept our engineering business or this business at least partially operational. Here's how we stayed in touch with the employees that we did have to put on furlough. Here's how we helped certain employees get through the DES process to file for their unemployment. Also, a couple other quirky things. You're a business where you have to cut people's hours. Those employees still qualify for some of the unemployment insurance. It's maybe proportional. And that's unlike any experience anyone's ever had before. So if you're saying, I can still keep you 20 hours a week, so I'm going to keep you 20 hours, go supplement your income through and do the DES paperwork for that additional 20 hours. So a lot of this is, the goal is, how do you keep attachment to the employers, so the ability when we have sort of an all's clear, we can snap back as quick as possible.
And I was aware that the unemployment insurance covered furloughs, because a lot of, particularly in the retail sector, hotel sector, furloughed a lot of employees. But you're saying that it also, there's a expanded feature if hours are reduced. There's
Yes.
a hybrid model. Wow.
Yes,
Okay.
and those rules I think just came out on Friday evening.
So that's the U.S. Department of Labor Secretary
Correct.
Scalia. So we'll have to look at those, because I know that the U.S. Chamber, uschamber.com, it's done a very nice job of updating information for the business community on all of these different programs coming out of D.C.
Yeah, in our congressional website, also we've been trying to put up sort of the one-pagers. So if you're a small business person and your life is running your business, not dealing with sort of the bureaucracies that run our lives now. We've tried to make it as simple as possible.
Excellent. Well, Congressman, I know that Glenn and I agree that we've been extremely pleased with how accessible you and your entire team has been. The resources that are on your website are excellent. Just to amplify a point that you touched on earlier, when we hear frustrations from our membership about making their way through this Paycheck Protection Program, something you talked about is that banks are heavily regulated industries. They still have to adhere to the Know Your Customer rules and other caps on lending that might restrict their activities.
Yes, but it's been remarkable how quickly it's moving right now. But we've had some calls that said, hey, I walked into Bank of America, they wouldn't help me. And then you got into the conversation, found out, but you don't bank with Bank of America. You know, maybe the first place to start is where you actually have that banking relationship.
That's been a recommendation that we've offered, and that seems to be the right place to start.
Yeah.
And I believe Treasury is going to expand the list of lenders from just the traditional SBA Section 7.
Yes, we're hoping that the sort of FDIC, those are about to expand, federally chartered. But you know, they're writing the rules and sort of the mechanisms and even some of the website mechanics. Because remember, it's not only just writing the rules, there's also the attempt to sort of make the computers in the background work and all these other things. So in many ways, it's remarkable as many billions as there are have already been committed in sort of the first, day.
Yeah, no, we're thrilled to see that. Again, I believe that as Congress looks at CARES Act Part 2, it seemed that Senator McConnell, Leader McConnell, and Speaker Pelosi and the President have started talking about different things that could be in any fourth package. You know, from our vantage point, it's very important to make sure that this program, that anyone who's eligible can participate in it. I mean, it's simply, for many small businesses, this is the difference between living and dying.
Yeah. So in my world, being on the phone all day long with folks in our community, I find some of the political class, some of the the lobbyist class, all want to know about a fourth package. I find my really small businesses just want to know how to make an application and deal with the fear of running out of money. And the sole proprietors are really worried that will it still be there for them on Friday. My recommendation to my lobbyist friends and my reporter friends is stop worrying about the fourth package. Congress is not in session for a couple more weeks. There's a number of us who are thinking you need to be doing policies that draw capital back into the markets. We've had a discussion of doing something like a capital gains holiday, but associating the capital gains holiday with when you buy the asset. Now French Hill's now calling me, but when you acquire the asset, not when you sell the asset. So how do you draw people in saying, hey, there's bargains in our world, or we're ready to invest in helping this restaurant or whatever it is? How do you encourage people to step in?
Yeah.
And we will keep our eye on the capital and see how it's being allocated. Are we using up the total dollar amounts? In a perverse way, if the PPP money, we know that's going to end up turning around and going to some type of employee stabilization, for that to work. Lots of people chasing that money sort of demonstrates the program was designed with the right incentives.
And we've entered into a partnership with the Arizona Small Business Association so that we can get the word out to a lot of the sole proprietors and the independent contractors. And your advice is good. We have a major task in front of us in terms of implementation. Let's keep our eye on that ball. Yeah.
Right now, have those conversations with some of the lenders around us. Find out if you could get a commonality where some of our community banks and even our bigger banks are saying, number one problem we have is people don't show up with this document. or they don't show up with a copy of their incorporation papers or those things. What's the checklist that if I was going to send my 12-person landscaping business or my 75-person tool and die shop, what documents do they need to show up with? And sort of helping everyone sort of have a common understanding of, here's your checklist, here's what you need to do.
That's smart. Congressman, I'm curious to ask, and this is not about what the next package looks like, but just about the future. Can you give us a sense, when you talk to your colleagues, your committee colleagues on Ways and Means, there's been some chatter on and off again about tariff relief getting folded into some of this. You want to speculate on that?
No, I'm not sure that it's an appropriate time to speculate on that. I do think it's okay to go as far as speculate. I believe there'll be some incentives over the next, but it could be months from now, on supply chain concentration. If you remember when we were sitting in that meeting, in that hotel you had a few months ago, that was actually one of the things I spoke about, is what happens when you have so much of your supply chain concentrated in certain places that key components are sole sourced there. And I think we all now, where a lot of folks in the audience sort of rolled their eyes at that discussion, now all of a sudden understand the black swans do happen. Fragility is when you're concentrated in that fashion. So how do you incentivize? We want trade, we want robust trade, but we also don't want to be subject to another black swan.
Fair enough. Let me ask you about. Go ahead, Glenn.
If I could just say, I think this is more, and I know the conversation we had, David, was a lot broader than just Mexico and Canada. But I'll just say, with USMCA about ready to go into operation, and what we've seen of the bottleneck of the personal protection equipment and the precursors to a lot of these important drugs, it's very clear the comments that you made a number of months ago are, let's just say, they were there was a lot of wisdom, and
it has snuck up on us, hasn't it?
Yeah,
you had the crystal ball, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's so we do our best here, and we try to figure out what do we do. My biggest concern is, and it's going to be tough because we're going to have an election year coming, and you can already see sort of the election trolls more focus on that than trying to take a step backwards and focus on what do we do to get workers working, small businesses surviving and prospering again, and get the economy snapping back. And our joint economic committee has been working on models saying, if we can do these sorts of things and snap back, what does the end of the third quarter, what does the fourth quarter look like? We may still end the year negative, but our current model has third quarter, particularly the second half of third quarter, really coming back, and fourth quarter just screaming. So what policies do you want to adopt today? Let's say we were to talk about a fourth package or implementation or certain regulatory. What makes that happen? And so even for state of Arizona, are there regulatory policies, transportation policies, labor policies that would allow you to snap back the economy faster? Being able to pull permits. Will restaurants and others have to go back to the health department to re-pull permits if their kitchens have been shut down for a while? But think of any type of regulatory barrier that might be out there that we could prepare for and have ways to speed through. So if a business is ready to get going, the bureaucrats have also fixed their problems too.
I love that idea. It's like, we know the economy, we have a lot of stuff that's shut down. It's almost like the old Bill Walsh San Francisco 49ers. We're going to call the first 10 plays. We need to be 100% ready that second where we can resume economic activity. And your comments on permittings and things that have been closed off, let's I'm trying to think of the right word. I mean, there's a lot we could do to have
But
that.
it's worth thinking through those things. You know, are there certain types of pieces of equipment you can't fire up until you've brought in an engineer to come certify it again because you shut it down? Are there certain types of licensing? It's worth the thought experiment of let's try to get ahead of unknown barriers. So let's say we're in June, all of a sudden we have an opportunity to say these businesses that operate in these fashions can get going. You'd hate for there to be some barriers of them to make that work.
You're right.
Smart. Congressman, is everyone on Team Schweikert in Scottsdale and Washington healthy and well?
Yeah, everyone's doing fine. I think they're all getting cauliflower ear from the telephones being squeezed at their heads. I hope they're wearing headsets. And it's been interesting, and I'll even do this on the call here. If there's someone listening, you know, from our business community that has a unique circumstance that would help us help them help their workers, call me. Let me give you my personal, I'm going to put up my personal cell number, which
Congressman, this is going out on the World Wide Web.
Yeah, that's okay. There's already enough. Look, I get my share of crazy calls every day. It's just part of life. But this is a time where we need to be sort of accessible. So 602-619-3330. That's my personal. Now, often what I'm going to do is try to, if it's a question I've had before that I can answer, great. If not, I will get you attached to our staff that has in their areas of specialty.
Thank you.
Thanks. Congressman, your staff, your very able staff is hustling you off to your next.
Yes, I know. They're texting you that I have another show to go to.
So I'll let Glenn close us out.
All right. Thank you, Glenn.
David, thank you. And we look forward to continuing to work with you through this crisis. But thank you for everything that you and your team are doing.
And let the chaos continue.
Thanks, Congressman.
Stay well. Thank you.